Chapter 10. Mommy? I woke up and glanced around, trying to find the owner of the voice. A small girl about the age of 3, with long blonde hair and blue eyes, stood by my bed, little hands hanging on the edge. Mommy, why didn't you want me? Tears glistened in the girl's big blue eyes, and her lips formed into a pout. What do you mean? Why didn't you want me? You had me in your tummy, and you let them cut me up and suck me out. The anguish on the cherub face tugged at my heart, and my breath caught in my throat. They cut you up? But they told me it was a bunch of cells, not a baby yet. Mommy, I had a heartbeat and a brain. I felt everything they did to me. Didn't you feel me try to move away from that thing? Aren't mommies supposed to protect their children? I stammered, but no answer came. My forehead wrinkled. Mommies were supposed to protect their children, weren't they? The little girl's eyes dropped to look at her hands. Was I not pretty enough? Did I make you mad? Oh, honey, I wasn't mad. You are beautiful. I wasn't ready to have a baby, I guess. And it was my choice. What about my choice, Mommy? Again, my mouth opened, but no sound came out. I had never considered that question. I believed what I did with my body was my choice alone. But here was this tiny life showing me that she too had a body and a desire to live. I'm so sorry. The little girl was so beautiful and angelic. The child began to fade. Where are you going? I stretched out a hand to touch her, but the girl was too far away. I have to go, but Mommy, I would have loved you. I really would have. The girl faded, and I woke with tears running down my face. My eyes searched around the dark room, but there was no girl. It had all been a dream. I placed a hand on my stomach, but nothing moved yet. Could it be true? I clambered from bed and retrieved my laptop from the desk. Taking it back to bed, I propped up some pillows and turned it on. Where to begin? I typed in abortion procedures, and pages after pages filled the screen. The procedure was much more graphic than the brochure from the clinic had claimed. In fact, it seemed almost barbaric. But there was a non-medical procedure, a pill I could take if I was early enough. That seemed less awful until I read that the women were usually just sent home to have the miscarriage themselves. The thought of what I might see as I miscarried made that an unappealing option as well. As I kept scouring, I ran across a page discussing side effects of abortions. There are side effects? I clicked the link, and stories of women who regretted their abortions littered the page. There were stories of women having miscarriages or ectopic pregnancies after abortions, and stories of women having hysterectomies in their mid-20s because of previous abortions. Fear coiled in me like a spring. I didn't want a baby right now, but I did want one in the future. If I aborted this baby, would I have pregnancy issues later like these women? I tried to convince myself that there couldn't be that many instances of these complications because I'd never heard of any. The media certainly had never mentioned them. I scrolled back to the top of the page and searched for abortion side effects. Again, links filled the screen. I clicked the first one and my eyes devoured the page. 30%? The spring coiled tighter. 30% of women who have abortions go on to have reproductive issues including miscarriages, premature babies, and infertility. More than half of all women later suffer from mental health issues, including depression and suicide. The coiled spring turned cold, and my mouth dropped open. How had the media never discussed these statistics? Wasn't it their job to give all the information? I bit the inside of my lip. 30% wasn't the biggest number, but what if I wanted to have a baby in the future and couldn't? The alarm blared beside me, causing me to jump and shut the laptop in surprise. Could it be time to get up for work already? My stomach still churned like I'd just gotten off a roller coaster, and the fear gripped ever tighter. I'll have to tell Daniel about this and get his opinion. After all, it would affect him too. I wiped my palms on my skirt as I exited the car. Pulling my shoulders back to portray a confidence I didn't feel, I entered the coffee shop. Daniel stood at the counter ordering. I took a deep breath and marched up to him. As I touched his arm, he whirled to glare at me, but his eyes softened when he realized it was not some stranger. "You're late, so I ordered for you already." Agitation colored his voice, and I cringed. This wasn't going to be easy. I cleared my throat and swallowed a few times. "How was your morning?" "It was awful." He grabbed a pastry and our coffees and led the way to the last empty table. A few other couples were in the small cafe, but singles with laptops comprised most of the crowd. I had meeting after meeting that accomplished nothing. It was ridiculous. As he droned on about his frustration, I ran my finger along the coffee cup lid. I wished he didn't sound so angry, but maybe the coffee and pastry would relax him. A few nearby patrons glared at Daniel's loud voice before returning to their work. I continued listening, waiting for a softer side to emerge, but Daniel's posture never loosened. He checked his watch and rolled his eyes, which I assumed meant he had to get back to work. It wasn't the perfect time, but if I didn't ask now, I might not get the chance. "Daniel," I said, putting my hand on his arm to keep him from standing, "how would you feel about having a baby?" He turned his mouth down and stiffened. "A baby?" The nearby heads popped up again, agitation in their eyes. His voice had not been quiet. "Did you not hear me talking about how stressful work was? A baby would make it worse. You aren't pregnant, are you?" I bit my lip. This wasn't going as planned. His nostrils flared and he lowered his voice to a harsh whisper. "Callie, how could you be so irresponsible?" My teeth clenched together. "In case you forgot, it takes 2 people to make a baby." He leaned back in his chair and stared at me. "I know that, but I thought you were on the pill. You were supposed to take care of that." His words stung, and I drew a deep breath, sending back my own biting words. "Well, I guess in the whole leaving me at the altar thing, I might have forgotten to take them for a while." "Oh, here we go again." He threw his hands in the air. "Is that always going to be your excuse? I left you at the altar?" My eyes narrowed. "Well, you did, and it had repercussions." "Look," he took a deep breath and ran a hand through his dark hair. "That event is behind us. It's water under the bridge. But surely you can see that a baby would not be good right now. We have to take care of us first. Get an abortion and be done with it. Then we can move on with our lives." I looked down at my hands. Had he always sounded so callous and selfish? I've been doing some research on the matter, though, Daniel, and I found that 30% of women who have abortions either have trouble conceiving later or have pregnancy complications because of it. What if I can't have a child later, when we might want one? Daniel waved his hand and scoffed. 30% is nothing. Think about the 70% that aren't affected. That's a much bigger number. The wall of defense that I had built earlier began to crumble under Daniel's harsh words. I leaned forward, splaying my hands on the table and playing my last card. "Yes, but don't you think it's a baby? Isn't it murder then?" "Come on. Do you think the Supreme Court would honor the procedure if it were murder?" He smirked. "It's a bunch of cells right now. So think of having an abortion like removing a scab from a sore." My face wrinkled in disgust at the thought. Still, the procedure seemed pretty gruesome, Daniel. They cut the baby up and then suck it from the womb. I saw pictures of cut-up little arms and legs online. He flicked his hand, dismissing my concerns. "First off, those pictures are doctored. You can't believe everything you read online. Besides, you have to think about us, about yourself. Do you think you could make partner while trying to raise a baby? Then there's the problem of our schedules. We both work long hours and would have no time for a baby. Wouldn't it be worse to raise a baby we didn't have time for?" His words began to make sense in my mind. I didn't have time for a baby. And surely the mass in my belly was only cells right now. It was still early in the pregnancy. A small voice inside insisted again that it was wrong, but Daniel's words were louder, and the fear of the unknown drowned it out. "Okay, I'll think about it again," I agreed. He frowned, but let the subject drop. That night, I eyed the bed warily as I undressed. Though I still wasn't comfortable with the decision, I had decided the abortion did make more sense. All of Daniel's arguments were true, but the dream from the previous night continued to haunt me. I didn't want to see the girl again. My daughter? I didn't want to feel the guilt. Climbing into bed, I turned on the TV, hoping for some mindless entertainment. Though I fought sleep as long as I could, eventually my lids fell closed.